Why do you think people, when they come from nothing, stay broke?
Well, if you're taught to breathe one way, you don't know how to breathe another way. The courage and the strength and the resilience it takes to break those generational patterns is intense. Everyone around you is telling you you're a fool. Every time you get an inch of success, they tell you you're going to lose it if you don't protect it. And you have to keep doubling down on those little successes. It's a goddamn lonely game by yourself until you've become the man, and then you're celebrated for everything. And who the hell wants to lean into those things other than someone like me that has delusional confidence that says, I refuse to accept anything other than that, and I don't give a shit what anybody says, because when the alarm clock goes off at 7 a.m., I'm doing that thing. Sounds easy, doesn't it? Entrepreneurship, very easy. Not so much.
We're live.
I'm straight out of the lair.
Straight out of the lair.
Not hosted by Flex.
Yeah, not sponsored, but
I would have to give a really horrible attempt at an accent right now, and I think that would just be more disrespectful to Flex than it would be anything else.
I would agree 100%.
When are you going back to Vegas?
I think we're going back in about when are we going back? I got to go back for the Warriors.
Yeah.
Within the next 2 weeks, we have to go back for a variety of reasons.
Okay.
2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll be there in 2 weeks.
Will you?
Yeah, I'll be there for a show.
Just make it not.
We have to do
November
Miami,
1.
the yacht pod
On the 28th.
Yeah, I leave the day after for Vegas.
I'm gone 1 through 5.
It might be during the
November.
week. It might be during the week.
That's fine.
I'm there all week, so if you're there,
We got to do Warri. We got to do Warri Studios. A couple other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then 2 weeks or so?
Yeah, within. Honestly, if Matt's free, it might even be next week.
Okay, well, you got to give me a heads up because I want to go.
I just did.
Yeah, but
It's on record. If you take off your headphones, you'll be able to hear it.
we're live. It's on record.
it's on record. Why do you like Vegas?
Vegas is the new LA, New York of the world.
Is it really though, or is it just a strip of bullshit?
Yes. No. I mean, look, since COVID happened, everything that was happening in New York, from the people, the players, the movers, New York and LA, they're all now coming to Las Vegas. And so it's not by mistake that's why we're there a couple times a month.
Why? Like, what is the issue with fucking LA? Because you've been to LA a couple times. Is LA just fucking gross?
Love LA. LA used to be my favorite place in the world before I knew what my favorite place in the world was, right? Because I'm an 80s baby. Beverly Hills Cop, man, that was my favorite movie ever. Eddie Murphy.
Such a good movie.
My God. I used to watch that movie every single day on the VHS tape till it wore out at my
it's
grandfather's
such a good
house. Shaped my personality in a lot of ways. And if you think about that for a minute, you'd be like, that makes so much sense.
There are 3, aren't there?
Well, for me, there's just one.
There's just one.
Just one.
That's
They're all
great
great.
movie. That's
Axel Foley.
yeah.
Come on, man. Anyway, LA was great as a younger guy going to LA for the first time and going to the Playboy Mansion and doing, all of the restaurants and all that stuff. It was amazing. It has changed, sadly, recently. And you don't need to take my opinion. I mean, the studios are moving, celebrities are moving. Besides the obvious implications of taxes and blah blah blah, who gives a shit? It's just not the same anymore.
I mean, who gives a shit? 45% of your fucking income can get just snatched away. I mean, that's enough of a reason to move. Like, what is it in Florida compared to California? Because actually, Las Vegas is also, there's no state income tax.
Agreed. Well, I mean, it depends who you are. I mean, some people, certainly not me, because I love the IRS and pay 10% more than I should always pay. But if you other people potentially, less.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. That we're just gonna not go anywhere near.
There are topics I don't talk
conversation.
about. Yeah. Other than to say,
That's so
I
true.
love the IRS.
Yeah.
Best organization in the world, and please tax me more because I'm happy to pay. I'll send a
Las
check.
Vegas.
I'll send a check tomorrow, and I'll even buy checks with balloons on it. Birthday cake. Love it.
Oh my god. So I'm interested to know because I've talked to a bunch of entrepreneurs and they talk about having executive assistants, and I'm like thinking about when you were in your heyday of.
Did you just call me old?
I was
Yes.
Was meaningless and of no value.
You are insulting the
So now I'm a cow in the pasture. Cool. Heyday. Yeah, I remember that. I remember when it was great. Yeah, I remember.
I'm sorry. That was fucked up.
More disrespect.
More so when you were scaling the gyms. did you have an executive assistant, and what was the value of an executive assistant?
Her name was Matt.
Mm.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
I never had an executive assistant like you walk in and there's a person who, are you here to see Mr. Fay? No, I didn't buy into that bullshit. It seemed like a waste of money. I used my C-suite team, although at first probably not to their preference, but it was more of a collaborative effort, right? And so, no, I didn't have a secretary or anything like that, but my C-suite team did the things that I just didn't have time to do.
Interesting.
Which is not applicable if you don't own a large company. If you don't have a C-suite team, an executive assistant is probably very meaningful and can take a lot of the stuff off of your table that you shouldn't be doing.
Well, the Dan Martell piece of content that I saw recently, it was like things that you need.
Kind of deal?
It was like things that you need to hire in your business to sell your business, because scaling a business is not the same thing as selling a business.
Well, you have to do one to do the other, but
yeah. But one of the things that they were talking about was an executive assistant, a finance guy. Like there's a couple other ones, but it generally made sense that you would have an executive assistant because they can be basically in your stead. But I guess in this case, it was Matt.
Well, to sell a company, all you need is profitability. Let's just be honest about it. Like your downline and your org chart and your all of that stuff is of somewhat importance, but really not so much, because the company coming in is most likely going to at least change it a little, if not completely change it, because of profitability. So if you have a company that does X, the company that also is probably acquiring you does X, and so they're going to get rid of a lot of your downline. So I would probably push back on saying you have to have anything concrete other than profitability. Optimize profitability.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I know I'm going to sell a company in 2 years or 1 year, I'm probably trimming some fat, and an executive assistant would certainly be the first person that I got rid of if I'm preparing for a sale.
Yeah. I actually want to get your opinion on this in terms of like having your team stick around, like the importance of maintaining and like holding a team for a long period of time. Obviously, like you built a family at ATC. I think you've been the first person to tell me that's one of the most important pieces of it. How do you cultivate a family environment in a company like that when it's so big?
I mean, it's not as hard as you might think. Well, actually, I take that back. It's difficult because most people don't give a shit about the shit that actually matters. And so most people pretend to care, very few actually care, and even less literally demonstrate that they care. Sounds simple, right? And so what I understood starting what was a small company at first, knowing that I wanted to build a massive company, was that I needed to have the complete buy-in of all of my people. And the only way you can have the complete buy-in of your people if they don't think you're absolutely full of shit. And if you go to 99 out of 100 in companies, if you go below the C-suite team, because the C-suite team is going to tell you whatever you want to hear, they're going to tell you that the founder, the CEO, does not give a shit about them. If you go to any company that I've ever been involved in, better than that, wait 10 years, then go to an employee who was a frontline person making $12 an hour and ask them what they thought of me. And they're going to tell you that I cared about them and I cared about their family. And that is how you have a career of success versus just flash in the pan.
And it's so funny because hearing that, you think it sounds cliche, like, but the thing that we've seen and just like being around you as long as I've been around you, you actually have all the proof. People reach out. I've had, whether it was James at Twin Peaks, he talks about you literally all the time about how great of a boss you were and how amazing of a person you were to him. And these are people that probably you interacted with maybe once a week, maybe once a quarter, maybe once a year. And yet you still left in
the definition. Sorry to interrupt. The definition of an interaction is different, right? And so I think that's the miss, is most high-level people take for granted how important the meaningless interactions are. And so the CEO who walks in the building and is so busy on his phone that the 5 people he walks by on the way to his office because he's got such an important thing to do, that's the miss. Where I understood that if I took those 10 seconds on the way into my office and took the time to go, hey, James, hey, Jace, hey, Ryan, Good day. How you doing? We're gonna have a good day. Cool. Make a stupid joke. Make fun of myself. Look at my stupid shoes. My man, that shirt looks cool. That changed the game because those are the little inches that add up to miles. People don't want a ton. They just want to know that you actually know they exist. Imagine that. Imagine someone wanting to know that they exist.
But what about like culture? Like,
That's the culture.
okay.
The culture is that you care about your people. The culture is not a slogan on the goddamn wall that people say or chant because the C-suite team is around. The culture comes from the top. And my culture was, I care and I'm less important than you and I appreciate you. Those three things. That's a game changer.
And so I was sitting recently with this guy who he owned like whatever, a couple companies, and he was talking about the multiple things that motivate him or the two things that motivate him at this stage in his life. The guy's in his 60s. Family,
Okay.
employees.
Okay.
And those are the two things that motivate him to keep going, to keep doing what he's doing. How does that, like, hearing that, what is your reaction to something like that? Do you think that that's bullshit? Do you think?
Are you asking how I'm going to feel at 60?
I'm asking how you feel now.
My favorite saying was always, no one works for me, everybody works with me. And that seems like, okay, what does that really mean? It actually kind of means everything. And so I always push back still today when someone says, Mr. Fay, I go, call me Derik. Again, that seems small, but most people, when they get to leadership or when they just start to have their first success, they're so excited about the fact that they're bigger and better than everybody else that they create artificial distance. Everyone knows that it's artificial. And for whatever reason, I think because of where I came from, I did the opposite. I knew that keeping my people close to me, and if anything, me lifting them up above me. And first of all, let's address the fact that you lifting up another person makes you better, not just look better. That's a part of it. It actually does make you better in the eyes of everybody, including the person that you're lifting up. But for some reason, when people have any level of power or any level of success, they go the opposite way. Like, how the hell does that make any sense? It makes no sense. So anyway.
I don't understand. Well, I understand it from the people's perspective. They get this inflated ego. They have people, quote unquote, underneath them. All of a sudden they have this leverage that they finally find, and they immediately think that they are way more important than all the people that got them there. But something that you've instilled in me from the beginning, it starts and ends with those people. And the second you start treating those people like shit, like everything else kind of goes away. But it's interesting because companies can still exist with bosses, CEOs, C-suite that treat the downline like shit. What are the biggest things when you're coming into a company and you're first spotting it? Because everything that we talk about when you come into companies, it has very little to do with the technicality of how the business is operating from technical sense, has way more to do with what's going on in the mental, the culture, and the downline of how did the employees feel working at the establishment.
Yes. But if a company's not imploding or having a problem, it is probably because somebody, despite leadership, has picked up the responsibility of being the person that other people can rely on. And so that has to exist somewhere in the downline. And so if I come into a company and the CEO is not taking responsibility for the problems and the company is still successful and he doesn't quite know what's wrong, then I follow the train down to the person that's actually doing the job that the CEO should be doing. And then that's where you start.
Shifting gears, Ryan, do you have any, like, I want everybody to just feel comfortable. Jace is a stoic right now.
I'm a big listener.
You look very comfortable.
I know.
I am.
But no, seriously, we're in short form. So just if you want to just chime in, but I'll just keep.
You don't talk, Ryan.
It's the worst drink I've ever had in my life.
It's a weed drink.
Yeah. Whoever gave you that mixer,
Fuck.
done.
But it was bad, and then the mix of the two.
You should have gone for the Yaisley.
I should have just drank it straight with a straw, but yeah. Also, did I tell you the name of my potential podcast?
No. What is it?
Tell me if it sucks.
No, I think you told me, but go ahead.
Really just to piss off 99% of all the gurus in the world.
I'm excited.
Happy hour.
Yeah. No, you told me that.
Happy hour.
Happy hour.
Are you going to be drinking?
That's not just ended. Yes. happy hour, business, booze, and bullshit. And you have to have and you have to have at least one drink while you're on the show.
All right.
You
And I want to have a bartender that's making drinks. And if you empty, I want them to come on the podcast and give you another drink.
What
I
if
like
somebody
that a lot.
is not, they're recovered alcoholic, they won't drink anymore?
Well, then I'm not going to force them to drink it. I mean, they can do LSD or something.
They're not going to come on the show.
No, I'm just
That's-
kidding. They don't have to, but I'm still going to.
Sure.
Do you think alcohol plays a strategic role in bonding in business relationships or just relationships in general?
I don't know if it's a strategic role, but I mean, some people like to golf, some people like to drink. I like to at least drink, but if I'm golfing, I also have to drink.
That's fair.
Because golf is a horrifically agitating sport that most people take too serious, and I refuse to.
No, but I mean, like, I think it's. I was hearing somebody because obviously, like, Sober October and whatever, and I know your stance on something like Sober October,
I
but
think it's wonderful.
somebody did mention it was like when you remove things feel more uptight. Like me and you have been in filming sessions or whatever, and you look at me, you're like, you are fucking uptight, and you're making me feel uncomfortable because you're so uptight.
Why was that?
What do you mean? Why was that?
I don't know.
I have no idea. I can't pinpoint that, but sobriety was a contributor of it. I can say
There you
that.
go.
But that it, like in a lot of business relationships, like a lot of those bonds are made over a drink. Do you think that that's exclusive, or like how would you, if you couldn't use alcohol, how would you create those types of connections, or do you think it has nothing to do with that?
Well, I don't think alcohol has anything to do with creating connections, but I also don't think not having alcohol creates better connections.
Okay.
I think it's recreation in general.
I think it's do whatever the fuck you want and stop listening to everyone that tells you there's a list of rules of how you become successful. It's ridiculous. Like, I posted something today. Did you know? Ready for this? Everyone be ready, because this can change your life.
I'm fucking ready.
It's 206, not 205. 206% more likely to be a millionaire if, wait for it, you make your bed tomorrow. Well, shit. I want everyone to run out and make their bed tomorrow. But then guess what? On Saturday, no one's going to make their bed.
Mm-mm. No. And now those people are not going to be millionaires.
I haven't made my bed in 25 years.
I know.
Really?
I was going to say.
You don't make your bed?
I know. It's crazy.
No, like legit.
Does anybody make
anytime
your bed or no?
No.
I can give a shit. I don't care if my bed gets made.
Huh. Good for you.
Why would I care?
Why
It's-
does
you know
it
what?
matter?
It's easier to get into at night.
It's fair.
But why do you think people put so many different rules on their success? I think this is something me and you talk about all the fucking time, and it's
Yeah.
actually hilarious because at 24 I still follow a lot of these rules. So
Absolutely.
it's
I think you should follow every one of them.
but it what does it do for your relationship with quote unquote success or quote unquote monetary whatever when you have these lists of rules that if you don't follow you're not going to quote unquote be successful?
You become a failure. I mean, look, anyone that's giving you a list of things that you have to do to be successful does not know how to become successful. And they're probably not successful. They're probably full of shit. When I was not super successful and I wanted to become successful, I didn't get up and journal and then have 20 minutes of deep breathing and then do an ice bath and then do a sauna and then, stretch my anus or whatever it is has to happen for you to be successful. Because guess what? Even if you get up at 6 a.m., you do all those things, now it's 2:30 in the afternoon. Well, again, I don't think you're going to be successful. When you're 20 years old, you have an idea of what you're going to do. I got up in the morning, my hair was on fire, and I screamed towards the day. I didn't get there and sit in my feelings as a man and write down how I felt. I had a general idea of what I was going to do, and I attacked the goddamn world at 100 miles an hour and got shit done. These things of me, but sure, you know what I do now at 45, being successful? I get up, I have a cup of coffee, in bed, scroll through TikTok or whatever it is, like a 13-year-old girl, and I don't have to do anything till 11 o'clock. But guess what? That's a luxury because I'm rich. If you're not rich, you can't do that shit. It's nonsense.
I'm fired up.
I mean,
That's fucking awesome.
it's so true, right?
No, it's so fair.
It's so fair.
It's so fair.
Like, we're so many people, and I'm not going to name names because a lot of them are friends of mine, but they're giving these lists of things that you should do that are luxuries that are only afforded to the rich.
Mm.
And unless you're talking to another rich guy that's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I don't do anything until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. How does that help someone that's broke? It's just like, I don't want to talk about Derik, what's it like to run $100 million company? Or Derik, what's it like driving in your $800,000 car? Well, that's helpful to someone that's 20 and trying to figure out life, isn't it? How about instead I talk about the shit that I did dumb when I was 20, and maybe you shouldn't do it too? Or how about the struggles and the failures? Maybe that makes more sense. But that's not what social media is about. It's trying to, whatever. It's just nonsense.
I think I realized recently that being in your 20s, actually the worst thing you can do is spend time on social media, listening to other people on social media tell you what you
I think it's true for anybody in any age. Now, social media has made it everybody's the same age. Even me. I'm 44. I'm on social media posting on TikTok. What the hell is wrong with me? We've all fallen into it to some regard, but the difference is I'm doing it to build more money. I'm not just aimlessly going through it. And so I know that people are, because my children do it too. So what I'm trying to do is, in the one glimpse of 3 seconds that I catch someone's attention, I want to say something of value that maybe somebody will listen to. Not some nonsense about the goddamn money that I have, the house that I have, the car that I drive. How about that time I screwed up and I know that everyone else is going to go through that same moment? That's the shit I want to talk about.
And I talk about this with everybody with you. Your authenticity, me and Chase were having this conversation yesterday. It's like you are there is zero filter between what's happening up here and what ends up on social media.
Oh, I don't even know what's going to come out of my face.
Unless you text me beforehand and it's like, hey, I think this is a bit risky. I think this is
that's possibly true. But no one is more surprised about what's coming out of my face than me.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Well, how do you balance that with when you're feeling emotional? Because we talk about emotional regulation all the time.
Mhm.
You have the ability to be so authentic and so like, this is who I am, take it or leave it type of person. But at the same time, you're also, just because I've been around you in so many different scenarios, you're also so measured when you have to be. And when emotional situations pop up and you're super calculated with how you say things in some regards. And then also you're completely authentic and true with, this is who I am and this is what I have to say.
So when you ask me how I feel, there's no reason for me to hold back. But if I'm responding and I know that it might make someone else feel a certain way, that's when I'm measured. And that's just giving a shit about other people's feelings. And that's not always true, because you gotta know the room. Sometimes you gotta tell people things they don't want to hear.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had those conversations.
Yeah. Well, that's
and it was out of love, but you still had to hear it as a man.
And that's the biggest point. It's you've taught me more than ever that sometimes you need that person that is going to kind of hurt you in a moment, but then you're going to look at it. I mean, you've said things to me in one moment that I did not go back and actually like process and be like, holy fucking shit, he was right. 2 months later.
100%.
Legitimately 2 months
And you hated
later.
me the first 49 or 59 days before.
Yeah.
And that's what we've talked about it before. And I've said it before. There's two types of words. There are the words that are meant to hurt, and there are words that people say because they're hurt. And the words that are meant to hurt either are because you deserve it, you did something wrong, or they hurt because you know they're true. And those are words you need to step back and like let sink in. Now, the difference being, if someone says words just because they're hurt, well, that's got nothing to do with you. And and your response radically changes based on knowing that.
And it's also intentionality. Like, I think based on our relationship, your intention is only to
I would agree with that.
help me along my journey
That's right.
as whoever I am.
That's it.
And that is felt through the authenticity of who you are and how you deliver your message. Because if you actually didn't give a shit, it would be felt in a much different way. But
Agreed.
the intention, because I think
Know the room.
and it's also, I think people can take things so personal sometimes. And this is another thing that you've told me a million fucking times. Not everything needs to be personal, because
Correct.
somebody can say something and they might be in a high status and they might be in a high stature, but their intention is to manipulate and
Of course.
give you a feeling of something that they know is going to help them in the long run.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you just have to be able to read the room. How, at least speaking to somebody that's in their 20s, like when somebody's coming to you, how can you tell if their intentions are good or not?
I don't know that you can, but the example I like is, let me find one. Okay. We go in a room and there's a 4-year-old child who just started speaking, but 4-year-old child just putting emotions and feelings back together. And we walk in and it's Jace's child, let's say. And, oh, hey, how are you, little Susie? And she goes, you're ugly. You, what a silly kid. Doesn't even break through, right? But you go into a different room with a bunch of adults and someone goes up and you go, oh, Jesus Christ, you're ugly. Now, it's the same words, but said by somebody different, but that's not on them. That's on you. Words don't hurt. It's how you perceive those words. And what people don't understand is you have control of that. Imagine that. You have control over how you feel, but most people don't, and that's emotional regulation. And that is unfortunately built up over time. I don't expect a 20-year-old, nor did I, have that self-awareness or that ability to self-regulate like I do at 45. Maybe hearing it helps a little bit, but believe me, just like you, which is why I have so much patience with some people.
I was gonna say you have such an incredible patience.
I get it. I
Yeah.
was there, right? And so if some people did or said the things I said to you that I say to you from time to time, I would have revolted the same way that you did. And that's why I sit back and wait and talk shit to Jace about you. And then, no, he'll be back in 30 days. And then that's okay.
And it circulates and it goes around and around and around.
And it comes from a place of care.
Yeah.
That's the most important
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
because people that say those things to any of us are the people that care the most.
That's right.
And whether they hurt or not is up to us, like Derik's saying.
That's it.
And me and him have conversations all the time where we go into the conversation knowing that there's going to be some friction in what we're talking about and how we're talking about it.
Agreed.
But there's the feeling and understanding that this person cares about me. And sometimes you have to sometimes I'll have to tell him something hard. He'll have to tell me something hard. But he's like, dude, just understand, I care about you.
Mhm.
But this is the reality. And it's like, it's always, I think it's interesting. The book that I'm reading right now, it talks about this. The more you think you know, the actual number one, the more likely you are to stay stuck in your thoughts, which is actually what keeps you poor.
We talked about this the other day.
Yeah, exactly.
Uncle Tommy, remember how I
Mhm.
used that
Yeah,
analogy?
yeah.
The people that achieve the least are the ones that know the most, and the people that achieve the most are the ones we realize how little we know. Right?
Because the world is so fucking vast, and the more you try to understand,
Mhm.
you more realize you're like, oh fuck, I didn't know
Right.
anything.
And I've never once had a situation where I was proven wrong that it didn't make me better in every sense of the word.
How did you in your 20s? How did you deal with that in terms of taking the ego out of it? And it's interesting because you don't practice things that I practice. I am the guy that meditates. I am the guy that journals. I am the guy that gets in the ice to tame the ego. And it's always that for me.
Right.
It's a way to disassociate from.
It's not working. Keep doing you.
Yeah, exactly. But what was it that did help you in that, or is it just sets and reps? Realistically,
Actually, that's a great question, and it isn't sets and reps. It was, I knew what I wanted to be. And my grandmother tells a story. At 6 years old, until today, if you ask me, what do you want to be? I said 2 words, one word, rich. And so I recognized very quickly that ego would get in the way of me becoming rich.
Whoa, how the fuck did you realize that?
Well, it's pretty simple. You only got to fuck up a couple times, at least for me to realize, oh, I thought I acted like a big shot, and the guy that could have changed my situation pushed me away. I learned quick. I make as many mistakes as everybody else, but what I don't do very often is make the same mistake twice. And so, I mean, if you live by that rule, now I take that back. With fun things, I do say I'll do anything twice, but with meaningful business things, listen, that's the best way to learn. I've always taken that approach. I have a delusional confidence. I'm going to go into it expecting to mess up, but I'm just going to mess up once. And that mess up will teach me how not to mess up the second time. And at scale and at volume, all of a sudden over a short period of time being 12, 24, 36, 10 years, all of a sudden, all of those one-time screw-ups that you're not screwing up, now you're in a room with a bunch of MIT grads or a boardroom full of Fortune 500, whatever it is. Now you're the guy that has the answer to almost everything, and that shit adds up.
No, yeah, and it's something that you've just impressed on me at pretty much beating it into my head is that exact fact of like, don't make the same mistake twice. But I'm interested to understand and kind of like speaking to the audience more so. It's like, why do you think that people, when they come from nothing, stay broke?
Well, if you're taught to breathe one way, you don't know how to breathe another way, right? I mean, I guess it's as simple as that. And I guess bigger than that, the courage and the strength and the resilience it takes to break those generational patterns is intense, because everyone around you is telling you you're a fool. Everyone around you is telling you you're wrong. Every time you get an inch of success, they tell you you're going to lose it if you don't protect it. And you have to keep doubling down on those little successes. So it's lonely. It's a goddamn lonely game by yourself until you've become the man, and then you're celebrated for everything. Well, at that point, you don't need it. You've already proven it. And so I guess that's the answer. It's lonely. It's scary. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And who the hell wants to lean into those three things other than someone like me that has delusional confidence that says, I refuse to accept anything other than that. And I don't give a shit what anybody says. And I don't care what it feels like. I don't care how bad it hurts. I don't care if at 3 o'clock in the morning I wake up in a cold sweat, looking in the mirror crying, which I've done. Am I doing the right thing? Because when the alarm clock goes off at 7 a.m., I'm doing that thing. And that's it. Sounds easy, doesn't it?
It is.
Entrepreneurship, very easy. Not so much.
Telling me. I think we had an interesting conversation on the phone the other day where you were talking about your understanding of when to pick an opportunity and when to run away from, not run away from, but when to just leave an opportunity be. And we as a team have seen so many crazy opportunities come across, like just fucking massive deals that at our age we're like, whoa, holy shit! Why? Right. This is a game changer. This is gonna change everybody's life here. And
FOMO.
You're here, stoic.
Yep.
And in a lot of those cases, you say, no, I'm good. I don't want that. I'll let somebody else have that. Where the fuck does that come from?
That's reps. I mean, listen, and that's not the answer other people are going to give you. They're going to have this big philosophical, experiential formula. It's bullshit. You can't pass on $1 million deal with this magic formula. I know, based on time and privilege, by the way, it is a goddamn privilege that I get to pass on $1 million deal. And let's not pretend that it's anything other than that, nor should someone in their 20s ever pass on an opportunity like that. But for me, which is so different than everybody else, which has to be said, because this is not advice that other people should follow, but for me, at 45, with a nest egg, I get to decide the stuff that I want to do versus the stuff that I have to do. But that was not always the case. And so there were certainly periods of time in my life where I did things that I had to do so that I can now do what I want to do.
Yeah. And what do you like? Where do you get the, like, when you were building ATC, you've already said, like, hey, my goal was this. My goal was to get rich. That was, but you, obviously, the ATC was a little bit of a different story. You had a larger purpose underneath that. At your experience now, where you're at, how do you find that purpose? Or are you even thinking about that purpose at this point because you've already had that figured out? Or like,
define purpose.
Just the thing that, like creativity, like creating, like what we're doing right now. Like, this doesn't feel like work, and I feel like that creates purpose. Or is this just play? Like, I think that purpose, when you're truly purpose driven, you feel like you can just move and do and like operate without necessarily feeling like you're working.
I'm not sure of the question, but we'll find it together. I'm doing my best, even just recently, to avoid giving advice that suits me today, because there are very few people that are in my position, right? And so ask me the question in a way that's more meaningful to someone in their 20s.
Okay.
Because purpose for me, again, is a luxury. I've decided not to make probably 10, 15, 20 million dollars this year just doing what I've always done, to pursue whatever this is. And I know this is something special because I'm impacting people, because they tell me every day. And I know whenever I pour everything of me into something, it ends up being something special, not just for me. And that's super exciting, but that's a luxury. So what do you ask it for me from a different perspective, like from your perspective?
Did you
20 that you're starting out? What are you trying to ask me?
yeah, well, I mean, that's a great thing because I mean, me and you had this
Yeah.
conversation literally the other day.
Mhm.
Purpose in your like, there is no finding it. I mean, I don't know that there's a,
Okay, I see. I
yeah,
see. I
you
see
know what I'm
where-
saying?
yeah, I see. So I, or maybe I don't, but I'll say it and you can redirect me. But you're 24,
Yeah.
and if I may, you're stressed the fuck out about what it is you're supposed to be doing, while at the same time not really knowing even what it is you want to do. And although you don't realize it at 24, nor did I, you don't even really know exactly who you are, which is actually amazing, because that means you're still creative. And that's something people lose sight of, that I haven't at 44. I still, if someone asks me, what do you do? Or what do you know, what, I don't know. I still don't know exactly what I want to do. And I get excited about thinking about that. Like, life should be an adventure. You should always be trying to do better, do more, reinvent yourself, all that type of stuff. But in your 20s, and I think it's because of social media and the instant gratification and all these types of things, you're all so stressed out about what should I do versus who am I and what sets me on fire.
Mm.
And those are the things you should pursue.
And it's funny because I mean, we're giving people a lot of insight into like our conversations,
Mm.
but I think the thing that I came to you,
But they're good
yeah,
conversations.
it was a great conversation. I came to you, and it's funny because this kind of shows me the how I hold you in terms of our relationship.
Mm.
But I mean, I had a conversation with you where I was at the absolute fucking bottom, and I felt like emotionally, like every feeling in my body was like I'm at rock bottom. And I get on the phone with you. Getting on the phone with you at my age, I am looking for you to be like, here's where you're fucking up. Here's what you need to change. Here's da, da,
Right.
da, 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 da. And you had none of that for me.
No.
You simply asked questions
That's it.
and you just stayed reserved
Yep.
and you just asked questions. And
Right.
then you brought anecdotes of things that you felt when you were at your
Yep.
age and all these different things. And it's like, what, like, so explain to me, when somebody is coming to you, how do you know, like when you're going to somebody, how do you know they're giving you good advice? I guess that's how I want to tie this in.
Let me try to answer it this way. I think when you ask, like in the situation that we're in, I don't care if I've got 25 years more experience. I don't know really how you're feeling or what you need. Only you do. And so me just vomiting advice on you doesn't do any good. It might resonate, it might not, but it doesn't mean that I've hit the mark. My goal as a mentor to anybody would be to try to get them to understand why they're feeling the way they are and what it is they want out of the call, the situation, the business, the relationship, whatever that is. The problem with most people, especially when you're feeling things aren't going right, is that people stop thinking. All they do is feel and they don't think. And that is the absolute wrong way to go. So all I try to do in situations when I feel emotions and feelings are elevated is I try to reduce that and increase the thinking. And I think you felt it changed. It's a game changer.
It's such a game changer
Yeah.
because you just ask simple questions. Like, we can just, I think this is so
Yeah, yeah.
valuable. Like, I was in a position where I felt like I didn't know. I felt like everything I was doing was wrong, and I felt like every move that I made was wrong.
But
And
you were
a lot
wrong.
of it,
Well,
exactly, a lot of it was me making ego-based decisions
Mhm.
because I wanted to feel a certain way. And it's
Right.
funny that that's how we thought about it.
To say that I can see 10 years down the road doesn't mean that I can actually see 10 years in the future. It means that I can look back to 35 being 45. And so I recognize patterns. Tony Robbins talks about patterns, and that is the key to life, right? And that's only earned over time. But the way you treat people in your 20s and 30s is a massive contributing factor to your reputation. And your reputation is everything when it comes to long-term success. And so sometimes people do things because they think they're getting fancy or getting famous or notoriety or successful. And they're like, oh, I did that and didn't have any impact on me 3 months, a year, 5 years. Trust me, shit comes back.
Yeah, that's the fucking craziest part. I think people get so
Act accordingly.
they get obsessed with the idea that they're famous on social media. Number one, they think that fame on social media means fame in real life. There's a fucking difference. I would
think so.
There is a definite difference. You are famous in this area before you're ever famous on social media. You can
listen. Somebody called me an influencer the other day, and I said, if you ever say that again, I'm gonna smack you in the mouth. I said that on a high level call. Listen, I'm on a call brokering at this moment a $730 million company, and I'm talking about having advisory shares in this company, which for me, let's say it's a 3 to 5% advisory share. That's a $35-40 million take for me in the next 3 to 5 years. And this both speaks to the power of social media and the nonsense of it. One of the board members referenced me being an influencer and how important that was. And maybe I should have taken that as a compliment. And I, of course, said it in jest. If you ever call me an influencer again, I'm out of this company. And everybody laughed. But how wild is that?
It's fucking nonsense.
It's wild.
I mean, granted, I was talking about this earlier today. Like, social media, it's great, but the way that you use it, it's great. The way that 90% of the 20-year-olds out there right now use it is fucking toxic. And there is such thing as fucking like survival of the fittest. You always talk about survival of the fittest in like the physical capacity, like things are gonna come and like stomp you out and stuff like that. We're in a world now that our mental is getting attacked more than our physical is.
Which is worse. From a childhood of abuse, physical abuse is one thing. That shit heals. Mental abuse is the worst. But I love where you're going with this, because the other day I was on Instagram and I saw, I don't know, let's give him credit and say he was 17 years old. And this kid, no offense to you, has his headset on and he's got his mic, and this 17-year-old is giving big picture life advice. And I had to stop. And I was like, I have to listen to this. But that's the stuff that we're faced with. And so whether he heard someone else say it or I don't know, but there's this like affliction, which I think is a great word, this affliction that you have to get on social media and give big picture advice about shit that you have no clue. Guess what, guys? You look like a fool.
You look like a fucking fool.
And I'm not saying that some of the things I say, I don't look like a fool, but at least I can say I lived through it and I've done it. And I also always say my opinion, you don't need to accept my opinion. I'm not saying that my opinion is right. I'm saying this is what I experienced. This is my take on it. It worked for me, or even better, it didn't work for me. Do with it as you want. These keyboard warriors are like, oh my God, how could you? And I love to respond, because you know me, I'm very calm. And I say, this isn't advice. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what happened to me. Do with it as you please, or swipe.
Or just
that's like a dating app, right?
Scroll
up. See, that's a total. That's a 45.
That's a 40 thing to say for sure. No, it's interesting because me and you talked about this. Literally, it's actually changed the foundation of how I thought. Because you came to me one day. It was almost a year ago now. We're sitting in the car and you're like, "Listen, man. Like, I just think that these young kids that are trying to be influencers, I think it's fucking toxic, and I think it's actually going to hurt their success." Now, at that point, I was young and I was thinking, oh, like, what does he know? Da, 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 da. And I was also at the same time posting 3 reasons you need to increase your discipline, or 3 reasons, whatever. Like, that was the type of shit that I was posting.
Right.
And now coming full circle, I've always wanted to, like, we had this conversation as well. I like creating content. I genuinely, it makes me feel good. It makes me like whatever. But as if I'm gonna look into the fucking camera and tell anybody what they should be doing at 24 years old, it's fucking inauthentic.
What's amiss?
It's wrong.
So if I was 24, and this is only insight I have at 44.
Yep.
So please understand, I'm not criticizing 20-year-olds because I was as dumb as you are. Okay, not you. Well,
No.
you sometimes. But if I could give advice, I would say, and I actually think you or whoever's watching would blow up. If you 20-somethings talked about the real shit that you were feeling, like I woke up today and I felt lost. I felt overwhelmed. I looked at social media. I see all of these guys that look like they're super rich. Is it real? I don't think it is. Like, have those conversations. You want to blow up? Be fucking real. That's the shit that will get you there. But guess what? It's scary. Yep. And I probably wouldn't have done it at 20 either, because I would be like, well, that makes me feel a certain way, or I look like I'm not secure. Now at 44, I don't care. My insecurity is my security.
Yep.
So that's,
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously like the format I'm in right now is the only, literally I've told everybody since then, this is the only format I feel comfortable. Why? Because I'm not saying shit about anything. I'm just asking questions.
Fair.
Because I genuinely want to know. I had this conversation with you a few weeks ago, or a couple days ago. I'm a curious person. I always have been.
You are very curious.
I've always have been, and I always will be. But if I wanted to create content, what do you do to create content in that way? You just ask questions, and this is I guess a format where you get to ask questions.
Imagine if you ask those questions of yourself.
Everybody
wants to ask other people questions, and I think that's been my superpower my whole life. Is not to say I take that back. I actually didn't ask many people questions because I didn't really want their opinion. And it didn't mean that I didn't respect it. It doesn't serve you. And so the biggest question no one is asking is the question that you already know, which is the question you should be asking yourself. And that's true at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So you're dead. The question you never ask yourself, which is that one that you know what it is right now, and so do I, and so do you, it's in the back of your head, and you're afraid to ask it because you're afraid of the answer. And the answer is probably that you're fucking petrified. And guess what? So is everyone else, and so am I. The shit doesn't change with success. You just learn how to work through it.
Yeah.
So the courage is asking those questions when you're alone, in your room, by yourself, when you're feeling like a piece of shit and the world's against you and it's never going to get any better, and you build up the courage to ask yourself that question. That's the game changer.
Yeah, it is. And we just live in a fucking bad actor world right now. I think it's...
Yeah, but let's stop blaming the world and start blaming ourselves, man. I mean, really, everyone wants to create the narrative that it's this and the world is that, and okay, maybe it is. Who cares? And I'm not saying who cares. That's the wrong word. So what? We're at war. Okay. Are you at war? James, are you at war?
Nope.
Cool. Their inflation is high. Can you change that?
Nope.
Okay. 2008, house values went down by 50%. You're going to sell your house? Or do you have a house? Did you have a house? Why are you stressed out? Like, we all find reasons to avoid the one question that matters, which is the one that we all know that's in the back of our head. So let's address those things. And that's what I did. And maybe it's because of where I came from. Maybe it's because I'm built different. But who gives a shit? It's time that people start talking about what really changes the course of your life. And that shit has nothing to do with anything but between your two ears. And that's the one thing everybody avoids.
Do you think about do you think about having hobbies or like creating space in your business life, or do your kids do that for you, or does like your family life do that for you? Because I think it's interesting when I go home at night. There's days where I'll go home, and a lot of times I just go here.
We all do,
and I live here.
Yep.
From the time I go home till the time I put my head.
We've been trained to do that.
Yeah, 100% we've been trained to do that. But somebody the other day was like, there's so much more fucking living out there. There's so much more living out there. And I think that's part of what gives you purpose is family and having kids and things like that. Yeah. And that creates those opportunities to do more. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I think there are a few questions in there. So one, I hate it when people ask me, what do you do for fun? I hate it because I feel like I'm supposed to have this answer like, I mountain climb, I chase cheetahs, and I, build sandcastles. I don't know. I do none of those things. And so for me, I love the pursuit of becoming better. I love pouring into my daughters. I love working out. I don't have traditional habits because I feel fulfilled. And so, I've had the one thing, not the one thing, that's unfair. Alex Ramosi has reached out to me a couple times for some calls and asked me questions. And the one thing that he said that I really do agree with, that he stands really strongly on, is what works for you works for you. He's like, I like to work. And I don't like to do anything else but work. And he's happy. So what's wrong with that? So if you're happy with what you're doing, then keep doing it. If you're unhappy, well, then maybe explore that and find what does make you happy. So I am not the one guy. I am a guy that refuses to give universal answers because I think any universal answer is absolute bullshit. And so just like our phone call, I like to ask questions. I like to find out what really the other person wants out of life. And so this is not me avoiding the question. You know me well enough to know that.
Yeah.
But I want whoever's watching this, whether one person watches it or no one, or, that guy in his basement that says I'm a moron, maybe it gets through, to think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, because all I've had to do is ask myself questions. And once I ask myself the questions, guess what? I get the answers. But I think
If they're real questions.
well, that's true. But the one thing that journaling has done for me,
Yeah.
is it's allowed me to be my most authentic self to myself.
Yeah, and you're smiling like I'm going to make fun of you, and I'm
No.
not, because I didn't journal, but what I did do in my 20s is I journaled money. And so I wrote down every single penny I spent. Gas, $29.37. And I'm old. It was like 90 cents a gallon. Right now it's like $600 I fill up my car. Costco, and not just $300 at Costco. Toilet paper, $12. Food, this. So what did I do? I went from being a kid that didn't understand where my money was going to understanding where all of my money went. And so it wasn't this, life is full of, of course, money is abundance. Yes, I agree with that. But you have to understand money and where your money is going before you can stand on this idea of abundance versus scarcity. And so I taught myself the value of money, how I was spending it, where it was going. That was a really big fundamental shift. That was one part. So I wrote down my money journal for your favor.
Yeah.
And then I wrote down things that I did during that day. And I included diet because exercise and diet have always been a big part of me. Because what I noticed was there were some days where I was like, I did the same thing on Wednesday than Thursday, but on Wednesday I felt like a lion. And on Thursday I felt tired and didn't feel great. And so what was the difference? So I had these things that I ate, things that I did. And then I was like, you know what? Right around this time, I felt a little off. This is where my day ended. So I would shift and change. And I got to this optimized day that changes over time. But that's why when you do the exact same thing every day, you're damn right I do. I am militaristic in my days. And if my day is off, I know why. And so it doesn't mean that I regret that my day was off, but knowing and controlling your body in your mind in every day is how you become super successful at everything, not just wealth, but at life. People just walk around like their body isn't a part of them. What's going on? Why do I feel this or bloated or sad or this? Because of something that you did. And so knowing that, you get to change that the next day. All of a sudden you feel bad for one day, not 6 months or 6 years or 60 years.
It's awareness. It's understanding.
In a word.
But here's the people are going to hear this and they're going to be like, oh, he just sits there and writes shit down every single day and he fucking whatever.
For a period of time. I don't anymore because now I know myself.
Exactly.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, a lot of people are still going to be looking like, I never write down everything that I spend and everything.
That's okay. And they'll feel like shit for the rest of their lives. And not to say that my way is the way. The idea is find what works for you. But what has historically proven to work for everybody or not work for everybody since the creation of time is doing nothing and fucking complaining about it. That does nothing. So keep doing that.
Fucking preach, brother. God damn. Holy shit, that's on fire. Ryan, Mr. Producer, ask some fucking questions. Ask some questions.
I've been waiting to turn this mic on.
Now
I
he
just wanted to
feels
hear
important.
myself.
Yeah. Now he feels important.
Nah, it's funny. I wanted to go back to what we were talking about earlier with like
Sweating
changing
like
the
I did something
world and
wrong.
all this stuff.
Changing the world?
Changing the world.
Go.
You're saying like, I don't think like people will say one person can make a difference. That's bullshit. There's no way.
You can make a difference in your life.
Well, how do you give me more of that? How would I personally, as a 20-year-old, make a difference? Because obviously I have no control over inflation. I have no control over, global warming, whatever the hell these topics are. Where do I go with that? Where do I start?
Well, what do you want to change?
Let's say I wanted world peace. How do I do I'm saying the point is like one person can't change the world. So how do we as a human species go about changing the trajectory of like our lives?
Of your life or of others?
Of impact on the world.
Well, the only chance you have to impact anyone's life has to start with your own. And so if you don't do that, then you're just saying, what's my favorite expression? Word soup. You're just saying words. And everybody just says words. And you don't want to do, not you, people don't want to do the work because the work starts at home. And the scariest thing that any one human being can do is admit that what they've done their whole life is wrong, that their beliefs are wrong, and that's where it ends. And that's the worst part. I want to change the world. I'm going to protest. Okay. What about you? I have people ask me all the time, how do I get more respect? Well, why would someone respect you if you don't even respect yourself? My kids don't respect me. Why would they respect you? You're 75 pounds overweight. You come home every day. You don't talk to them, and you're miserable in your life. Like if you want to change your life or the world, which I am not saying that one man can't change the world, although very difficult, you need to start with, here's my favorite expression. If you want to do anything of substance or build anything of substance, you have to become someone of substance first. So everything starts at home.
It's lead by example.
To yourself. Lead by example is a broken concept because people think that means you're leading someone else. No. You need to set an example for yourself. Like most people who work for 9 to 5 or even entrepreneurs, let's say 9 to 5, you have a boss. Be somewhere at 6 o'clock at night. Are you there? I'm asking you, are you there?
Yeah.
You know what? I changed my mind. Be there at 6 a.m. Are you there?
Yeah.
Cool. But then on Saturday or Sunday, when you've told yourself you're going to go to the gym or you told your daughter you're going to get up to, have a tea party with her, you blow that shit off. So you don't deserve respect if you don't respect yourself more than you respect a goddamn stranger. Everyone's looking for all the answers outside. Every answer you need is right in between your ears. It's right in front of your face. Look in the mirror. Accept the fact that you fucked up to today. Burn that shit to the ground and start over. And the second you do that, your life changes forever.
Where did you personally learn that? Just through experience, through reps? How did you find that concept? Because we know it, but hearing it from you is different in our perspective.
Yeah, because I was you. Listen, I was an abused child that created massive insecurity in every way insecurity can exist. I just buried it. For a long time, I identified as a victim, and I felt like the fact that I'm still standing meant that I was special. And I led with that shit. And then I had this moment where I looked around and I was like, it's not serving me. It makes me feel good in the moment. People are like, oh, congratulations, you poor guy. And I said, I don't want to be a poor guy. I want to be the goddamn lion that sets the example for everyone in my family. And then I want to get to a place where I can inspire other people who are hurt to stand up and then inspire the family that they're raising. And so I just got to that moment and I literally had to let go of every single thing that I assigned to myself as a boy or man-ish at the time. And that's not simple shit at all. I just knew what I wanted to be, and I knew the path that I was on was not going to take me there. So I flipped my switch and I went a different way.
Would you say fitness played a role in that as well? Of course, you owned a gym. I'm just saying in your own life.
Listen, I'm not going to own this claim this quote as it being mine, but I love this quote. When you're healthy, you want everything. When you're sick, you want one thing. And so listen, like let that sit for a minute, right? And I mean that like I'm a man. So man flu is like a woman dying. Like a woman's dying. She's like, I'm still going to vacuum and take care of the kids. We have a flu. We're in bed like, oh my God, help me. I'm going to die. I'm going to die, right? And that's just the truth of the matter. Women are way tougher than us. But anyway, I didn't know why that threw me so off.
Health.
Health.
Go back to health.
Yeah. I mean,
Health in your 20s, really. When did you start that health journey?
well, so I found the gym for an unhealthy reason. I found the gym because I wanted to be strong and powerful to protect my family. And then what I found in the gym was a brotherhood. I found a constant challenge. I found resilience. I found consistency. I found that going to the gym every single day, well, every day, 4 to 6 times a week for 30 years built up life is patterns, right? And so bodybuilding, weightlifting, fitness, athletics, baseball, football, basketball, soccer, tennis, even pickleball. It builds a set of skills that are incredibly similar and applicable to success in relationships, life, and business. And so that's why I encourage anyone that how do I fundamentally change my life? If they're not doing something athletic, fitness oriented, that is the first step because it also builds confidence, man. Most people don't go to the gym, don't understand it. Like that first time you go to the gym and you lift, it's miserable. Then the second, third time, you're like, wait a minute, I got a little bit of blood in these arms. I feel good. You know, my father, who had never worked out his entire life, didn't even tell me. He went into the basement of the house where we grew up in Rhode Island. He's like, I bought some weights. And I did a bunch of like curls and we didn't know what he was doing. He goes, I thought I would have been tired. He goes, D, I felt good. And afterwards I felt strong. And I'm like, that's what I've been trying to tell you. He goes, I wouldn't say this to anybody else, but I felt pretty good the next night walking out. His arms didn't grow, but what does grow is confidence, right? Confidence is built in inches, not in miles, man. That stuff adds up and it changes the trajectory of your life.
And you mentioned patterns. Now, I think consistency is key to building success and not worrying about the money, but staying consistent, head down. Money doesn't matter, right? So we even discussed earlier.
Well, money matters, but
of course, but making your bed every morning is a pattern.
It is.
So walk me through other patterns in your life that you took on such as the gym, such as making your bed, that built where you are today.
The bed making was not one of the patterns, but
it's an example.
It's weird because I am very consistent and stringent in certain things, but other things that most people weigh very heavily, I don't give much weight to. And I think that's actually a part of it. As you asked me the question, you see me searching through my vast emptiness of a brain. I don't give a lot of weight to the things that most people give a ton of weight to. And that's because I think that most people give a ton of weight to these mundane patterns in life that actually don't add up to any value. And this is going to piss some people off, and I know it because I've already said it before, but when a woman gets mad because the man is leaving his socks on the floor, didn't take the garbage out, she's not mad at that. She's more likely mad because he's not paying attention to her. And so there's hidden meanings in a lot of things in life. And so the fear of having real conversations is also a huge problem. I know I'm going off a little bit, but it's still pattern recognition, right? But for me, I fell into high value patterns. And I don't know where I got it from, but I recognize that health was a huge pattern for me that I needed. And I guess it's not a mistake. I just felt better. I felt strong. I felt powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so another pattern was work. And so I'm very good at recognizing and shutting off the world in in a kind of day by day basis. At least when I was younger, less now because of the luxury that I have. But as a young man, I woke up at a certain time. I did what I did, and so my day was actually very similar then as it is now. I got up, had a protein shake, I worked out, I showered, had a protein shake, and I went to work, whatever that meant. And then I would eat throughout the day, and I repeated the cycle over and over. And as we talked about, I would write down what I did. I would write down if it was a successful day, and I actually rated my days from 1 to 10. 10 being like, I killed the goddamn day. 10 was, I felt amazing all day. I didn't have that like lag in the middle of the day. I executed all my tasks. And as I walked into the house that night, I felt like the man. Now, those days don't happen all the time, but when it did, I took notice and I looked at my day and like, what did I do? Why was yesterday a 4 and today a 10? And I would put that shit side by side and I was like, there it is right there. And I would take that shit out and the next day I would do it. Now the next day maybe it was a 7, but then I would look at it. And then I realized there are these patterns in life. And that doesn't mean you have to be robotic, but there are some fundamental things, and it's different for everybody, that you need to do to feel a certain way. And you got to figure that shit out. And me just saying, here's what it is garbage. And that's why the idea of red sauna and journal, those may be a part of your journey, but they may not be too. So you got to take, 90 day, 120 day. I don't give a shit if it's 5 years. It's not that. It's far less than that. But really dig into and track what it is that impacts you the best and just duplicate that. Once you do that, it becomes second nature. You just do it because why wouldn't you do something that makes you feel good, right? And then all of a sudden, life opens up. You just do those things because you feel good, and you're off to the races.
And that's double check the cameras. I don't know if we're at no.
So been doing this a minute.
Yeah. No, I think it's so fucking funny because me and him.
I just talked for like 6 hours.
I know. That one. Okay. Me and him every morning. Fucking get up, crack acid dawn when we come down here.
Yeah.
We go run. We come in, we fucking dominate the day. And like this happened.
But it's good that you guys connect on that because the truth of the matter is, I don't know if you get up at 5.
Yeah.
But 5 might work for you and you feel great, but 5 might suck for him.
So
so if it does, then you go to 6.
Well, so
until you find that balance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The funny thing is it's actually not a consistency. There isn't a consistency. There isn't.
The consistency is inconsistency.
That's
I would agree with
fucking point.
I would agree.
And so like me and him can go in.
Fuck you. You know what?
Go.
No, we'll go back and forth because you found it, but I agree. And so because I do remember this being the case. And so let's just say I recognized in my pattern that 6:30 was the best time for me to get up. For whatever reason, I also recognized that if the alarm went off at 6:30 and I did not have to be somewhere, it's okay to sleep another 15 minutes. It's okay to hit the snooze, right?
It's so fucking true.
It's an adjustment. It's an adjustment because maybe the day before you didn't do this or that. But that does come back to looking at it and going, I missed 2 meals, or I didn't do this, or I got in an argument with my girlfriend and it just took all of the life out of me. And so maybe tomorrow 6:30 will feel different.
And so what?
So there's no universe.
No, there isn't.
That's the whole thing, right?
But
that's the whole point of what we're talking about.
Exactly. And the thing, we like, so most mornings we want to feel 100%. We got to go down. We got to run a couple of miles. We got to get into the office. How
many days do you actually feel 100%? Be honest.
So that my point.
Of 7 days in a week.
I mean,
100%.
No.
I mean, waking up like a goddamn lion, ready to jump out of bed. And
I mean,
never.
I would say maybe if I'm feeling like a fucking lion. But the whole point is what you're talking about is finding it and understanding it.
That's right.
And isolating it.
Yep.
And the recent thing that happened is we got this office, and I thought fucking offices were the fucking coolest things on the fucking face.
The first one you have is.
It's the coolest thing, and you want to.
You feel like Hefner.
The fucking
Hefner.
Man.
You're the bomb.
The fucking
Listen,
man.
And I think everyone should have that feeling.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah, but what happened was all of a sudden, we're a month into this thing, like, and I'm going to the office 5 days a week. And I'm getting up at fucking crack ass of dawn. I'm not seeing my girlfriend until 9 o'clock at night.
Sure, she loves that.
And there's 3 days that we're barely seeing each other.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking like, wait a minute. The first time I did this, I felt like the fucking man, right?
Mhm.
But now that I just did it 6 days in a row, I'm coming home to a fucking hell hole
Mm-hmm.
because my girlfriend's so pissed at me. And I realized that this whole there's so much more fucking to this. So the inconsistency is the fact that tonight, me and Ryan have been at this fucking thing. We got here at 8 a.m. and we're probably not going to leave until 8 p.m. Right?
Mhm.
We're going to go back. Normally, old Jamie would say, I have to be in bed, lights out, 9:30, gone, asleep,
Okay.
in order to have a successful day tomorrow.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
That was the assumption.
Okay.
Now I realize if I don't go home, spend some time with my girlfriend, spend some time doing nothing,
You need to unwind.
maybe just having conversation, maybe reading, whatever it looks like in that moment. If I don't do that, tomorrow's a fucking wash.
The shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And tomorrow, we just spent all day in the office. Do you think we're fucking coming to the office tomorrow?
Well, you might, but you're useless.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And that's the fucking point. That's the fucking point.
And you compare. And really, in hindsight, it was less about recognizing patterns and more about understanding me.
Mm-hmm.
Because how often do we ever really look at what we do every day and analyze it? Never. We just get up and do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a miss.
It's toxic. It's
I
super
don't know if it's
fucking.
toxic. It's just a miss.
Yeah.
It's not toxic because 99% or more do it. So that's not you can't say it's toxic. You could say it's most people's reality.
Yeah, and I think I think we're at a place now where it's funny that you've unlocked the truth of success, and success is just imperfect, it's inconsistent, but it's awareness first and foremost. It's fucking being aware of what makes you feel good.
Because if you're aware, you can pivot. If you're aware, you can have emotional regulation. If you're aware, you can do what you need to do.
And it's unlearning. That's the book that I'm reading right now. It's this. I didn't ever realize that I needed to read a book about unlearning, but
Yeah,
when
me
you
either.
come from past,
Mhm.
where you're identified that you're in this cubby,
Yep.
and people teach you how to think, like
Yep.
money, like what you just said about money in terms of tracking money,
Yeah.
makes so much sense. Why I'm so haphazard with how I spend my money.
Of
Why?
course.
Because I don't know where it's going. So if
Exactly.
you don't know where it's going, you have
Right.
no barometer of if it's going too much or if it's going too little.
That's right.
Realistically.
And it's not. And don't mistake. I'm not. What's that guy's name?
Dave Ramsey.
I am not Dave Ramsey. I think you should spend and gloriously spend because
Yep.
life is abundance. But that is also a privilege. And so privilege is earned in inches. You also need to understand money before you can spend it. And
So-
most people don't have that. And that's not a mistake, by the way. You're not taught that shit because whoever we want to refer to as the powers that be don't want you to.
Mm-mm. Well, it's because our whole world is driven by fucking marketing. Our whole world is driven by consumption. Our whole
Yeah, every belief you have is actually probably not your own,
Ew.
which is
God,
a
that's
wild
true.
thing to think.
God.
Which is a wild thing to think. Which is why I teach my daughters that there are no rules. Defy everything. Question everything. I don't care. And we like, girls have gotten in trouble. I said, your teachers do not deserve your respect. It will be earned. Now, don't you dare be disrespectful. But that stuff is earned.
Mm.
And by the way, and I get really big pushback on this, the same thing was true for me as their father. I looked at it as I had to earn my children's respect. Imagine if parents thought that. I teach them to challenge me. So if I have an opinion, and you know this already, if I have an opinion, or if I'm saying you're grounded, they know for a fact, batter up. This is my chance to challenge dad with facts and tell him why I think he's wrong. And if they are, change my mind.
One of the most powerful things that you
I
say
like that.
is
Why not?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know everything.
one of the most powerful things you say, and the fact that you say, like most people when they talk to 20-year-olds or anybody that's younger than them or any of them that's not as rich as them or whatever. Actually, I know people in the influencer space that says you should not listen to people that don't make more money than you. Like you should not.
No wrong.
Yeah, but the thing that you say that is the most powerful thing that you say is that's fair. You'll have a conversation and you'll have a very good conversation.
Yeah.
Nobody's ego's in the way.
Right.
And there's a outcome of the conversation.
Yeah.
And instead of being somebody that's like, well, I'm not going down without a fucking fight in this one.
That's right.
You sit back and you say, that's fair.
That's fair.
And it's
Just like that.
exactly.
That's fair. That's fair.
Exactly. And but it's so people
because nothing is 100%.
exactly.
Nothing is 100%. I don't care how sure I am. I could be wrong. Right? But think of the power in that.
Mhm.
Right? It's a superpower to be able to say, I'm pretty sure, but give me one thing that we know is 100%. I can't think of a single guy. Okay, we're going to die. Okay, that's 100%. But then if you dig into it, there's iterations of what does that even mean?
What does death mean?
Mhm.
Right.
Who knows?
And so I would rather be perceived as someone that is open than someone that needs to be right.
Man, that's fucking.
And that comes with age. I mean, I can't pretend to say that any 20-year-old is going to be able to adapt that because I wanted to be right every goddamn sentence that came in my mouth at 20. And so, like we say this stuff and maybe it resonates, maybe it doesn't, but I think it's important to at least have it out there because I'm not hearing anybody else talk about it.
Yeah.
And why not? Because everyone that's 40 knows this stuff. So why are they not talking about it? Is it because they don't think it'll catch eyeballs or because I don't know, or maybe they don't think it because at 44, I can't imagine how another 40-year-old doesn't feel the way I do, but it's becoming more and more apparent that maybe they aren't. And that is a scary proposition. And so I guess that in part is why I'm saying this stuff.